In the second part of my presentation, I would like to compare and contrast the available simulators that are online, as well as visit some photography educational websites that provide technical information on photography topics. And I'm going to conclude that based on the available tools, what I'm proposing is a much more powerful and significant tool because it actually brings uh, the two parts of the visual simulation as well as the technical part together and actually help the student bridge the gap between the two. And that's, so far I have not seen anything based on my research that does such thing. And I'll be discussing that right now. So this one, actually, I'm going to go to my website here and I'm going to go over the research that I've done. And I have the links for all these websites. There's 3 separate simulators that's associated with this particular image that I've posted here. But this is by far the strongest and the most comprehensive of the 3, and that's why I'm going to discuss this one. So this is it's a really great tool um, that can help someone who has some basic understanding of photography to understand some of the more complex topics and you know sort of play around with the settings to see what kind of a result they can uh, get from that. As you notice, the website is not, it's a standalone application. It doesn't come with any sort of explanation of what each one of these settings does or can do, or um, and we have like a variety of sliders here. Some of them, like these ones, aperture priority, shutter priority, these are quite advanced. I mean, this is not something that a beginner user should even consider playing around with uh, before developing a solid understanding of what a shutter speed is first before jumping into the shutter priority settings. So by providing an interface that's supposed to be for a very large uh, group of enthusiasts, um, it could actually also backfire and cause some confusion for the user. So my proposed application is actually much more detailed and is broken down into parts where the big, actually I'm going to go back so I can show you that again. Basically each part is separated and each part has animation specific to that specific tool that is being covered. So for example, if we're talking about aperture setting, understanding aperture, um, how the different f-stops affect the overall image, basically what I'm proposing is that not only you will get a animated visual diagram of the aperture setting next to the number, whatever the number is that this user or this student selects, but by doing that, the learner automatically would see the result of their selection. So once, for example, they're going to choose f8 or f6, the aperture would animate and they would see the immediate result on the photograph. This automatically, in an instant, it allows the student to connect the dots and establish a bridge between the technical concepts and the actual output based on the theory of how the light affects uh, the image based on the opening of the actual setting, the aperture setting. So, and I'm in conjunction with this, I'm also going to provide simulations, something similar to this, whereas you can actually see the opening open up, but it wouldn't, like mine would probably just stop at whatever setting the user selects. So for example, mine, it would animate, I would stop at this point, would see the resulting image, the student can automatically make this connection, and this by far makes this simulator that I'm proposing that much more powerful than something like this, where you have no idea why something happens, because I don't see an immediate result on a photograph. And once I click this, I mean, there's so many settings that have changed, and if I'm not paying attention or writing everything down, it can actually not be an effective learning tool for a beginner learner. I mean, great it's a great tool to just play around with, but I mean, it's really not that powerful all on its own as a learning tool. Another thing that I'm proposing in my prototype is the my lesson plans are built around the simulators, which means that, for example, in the aperture setting section, we'll have class notes, exercises specific to how to use the simulator to achieve a specific goal or result, as well as diagrams, animated diagrams, such as the one I just showed you, and PDF files, so that the student, if they prefer to download and read notes, they could do that. So for example, with the shutter speed, I would actually include this animated shutter speed. I mean, not this particular one that I'll build in Flash. I will include it as part of my prototype. So for example, here, the student can actually, once they change the dial to whatever setting they like to use, they see the automatic animation based on their selection, and they see the output of how the photograph is affected. So, and this becomes a much more powerful, much more comprehensive, and much more complete tool, as opposed to just a simulator as a standalone object without having any of the support files, and notes and diagrams and simulations. And also by being able to see the immediate result as you make the change, to be able to see the immediate result right away. Another thing that I want to actually go over is some of the available websites that actually also have notes and step-by-step directions on achieving specific effect. So PhotoNet is one of the most common ones that are used in the industry, and it's a massive amount of information on this website. And as you could see, it's extremely overwhelming for a beginner user to find whatever it is that they're looking for. So automatic, and because they have way too much information on this website, and again, this can become very, very intimidating for someone who just needs to find out what this very specific answer to a specific question to complete their assignments. Again, a lot of these websites are geared towards achieving specific techniques, assuming that the user already has those basic understandings of those fundamental tools in photography. So again, all these websites, as you can see, I mean, they're fantastic, but they're not really conducive for a beginner user. So what I'm proposing is a complete shell, basically a website with lesson plans built around custom simulators that I'm proposing. Another quick note that I would like to mention is that these simulators, also another disadvantage of these simulators is that these sliders and knobs, they don't really resemble what the actual settings look like on a real digital camera, a digital SLR camera. So again, this could also allow for confusion for a beginner user, so that when they're making some changes and they finally try to understand specific techniques and they go to the digital camera and it looks nothing like what they've actually been experimenting with. So the virtual camera that I'm proposing also is going to look like a real DSLR camera with the knobs and the settings for the most part resembling the actual settings on the camera. And I think by having that, the student automatically and intuitively can understand the process better by when they pick up their camera to go and do their photo shoots. And by actually bringing together these different learning tools from the custom simulator that I'm proposing as part of the entire class shell, with exercises related to using the simulator in relation to the topic, as well as step-by-step directions, diagrams, animations, and simultaneously seeing the end result of how once the tool is manipulated, what it can produce simultaneously. That can provide a much more powerful uh, outcome for the student in the learning process, especially for online students.